The KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Groundhog Day. Trying to make it sound like a Def Leppard song. Okay. I'm not fooling. Zep, is the snow this year impacted by El Nino, generally speaking? I got no Zep. Where'd he go?
That rascal. Is he going potty?
Must be. All right. Well, then in that case, here's a little local news for you. Okay, I'm going to give you 8 names. Dan Quinn, Mike McDonald, Jim Harbaugh, Gerard Mayo, Brian Callahan, Raheem Morris, Dave Canales, and Antonio Pierce. Those 8 gentlemen are all recently hired new NFL head coaches. Not on that list, Brian Flores, which means he's coming back to be the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. And that, honest to God, is great news. I mean, it kind of sucks for him because he should have gotten a head coaching interview, and I do believe he'll be a head coach again if that whole thing where he's suing the NFL is ever resolved. But for Vikings fans, that's really good news. We still got to figure out the quarterback situation. Obviously, there are other things, but to have 2 years with that guy running the defense, that just means this year's defensive effort will probably be better than this past season's, and that is a great sign heading in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good to hang on to him. You wonder if he'll stick around after next year. All the speculation about coaches like Belichick and such going next year.
Yeah.
And teams keeping their current coach for like 3 or 4 games, see how it goes, then give them the hook and bring in the new guys. Why would they wait?
It's ridiculous. I can't imagine, of all the coaches never to bring in midseason, you'd have to think Bill Belichick would be the guy, because there's no getting to know you. He's like going to walk in and go, this is what we're doing. And it's like, get on or get out. That would be a weird mid-season hire. But, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so the Groundhog says we're already in spring. And so maybe he's now at 39.1% correct, historically speaking. And it is 30 years since the movie Groundhog Day was released. An absolute ball breaker of a movie. I love Groundhog Day. Anytime it comes on, if I'm flipping channels and I see it, I will just leave it there and start watching. It's been one of those forever. There are other movies that probably deserve a mention or two. So with that in mind, let's go to Mike Evans for the Hollywood Report. Just whenever.
Come on, Mikey.
Where are we at?
QRS and Tony and Steve and Candice and Zep. Wow. I was just looking at the NBA standings. Man, the Timberwolves are playing great. They play tonight against the Magic, I think. They're fun to watch now the football season's over. I can hardly wait. This report, as always, brought to you by our good friends at Marcus Theaters. Why not go see a movie this weekend at Marcus? By the way, opening today, Scramble. It's a comedy with Leah McKendrick, who goes through life looking for love and having a baby. It is rated R. It's 90 minutes long, and I liked it. Again, Leah McKendrick starring in Scramble. We're going to start doing something different. A new feature every Friday. Steve, I hope you like it. Candice, I think you'll like it. I hope everybody likes it. I'm going to share every Friday a Mike Evans story. I've been around for so long, I got a million of them. Some will be funny, some will be shocking. Some will be amazing, some will be embarrassing to me. Every Friday, a Mike Evans story. Here we go. Today, it's an embarrassing story. Roy Yamaguchi of Roy's world-famous restaurants and a friend from Hawaii for many, many years was opening a new restaurant in 2012 on the water in San Diego. Roy has restaurants all over the country and all over the world. I don't know how I got invited, but I was invited to the grand opening in San Diego the night before. It was open to the public. Only big VIPs. Like I said, I don't know how I got invited. There were about 30 of us that were invited. We sat down for dinner at a huge table, one big huge table, and they started pouring wine. As I took a sip, I loudly said, for all to hear at the table, "Hey, it's nice wine, Roy." The guy sitting across from me quietly said, "Thank you." And I go, oh, you must have brought the wine. You got to come and have dinner, and you brought the wine. Good for you. Roy's assistant shook his head in disgust and said, loud enough for everybody to hear, "Mike, that's Robert Mondavi." talk about embarrassing. That happened in 2012 at the Roy's Restaurant in San Diego. By the way, Mr. Mondavi took it in stride. Very nice guy. Well, I hope you have a great weekend, and it's Aloha Friday. Go work till Monday. We're going to play today Aloha Friday. Have a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday. Lili Okalani, Lani, Ani, okay, Ella, Koo, and a cock, and a ock, and hui, 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 ho. Bye-bye.
Aloha.
He brought it back.
Wow, he did. The song was back. And from what I took from that story is that Robert Mondavi's kind of a douche.
Right. Well, what does he know about
You're
wine?
welcome. Shut up. Like you're a household name, like anyone's going to know your face. And by the way, Roy's assistant, who shook his head in disgust, that guy's a douchebag, too. Who the hell knows what Robert Mondavi looks like?
Yeah.
Come on. I wouldn't know Fran Tarkenton if he bumped. Yeah, actually, I would.
Yeah, you would.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, then. Fair enough. That was the... I just don't know what to make of that Hollywood report. All right, that was something. I met a guy once. I've never met I haven't met a winemaker, but it's just some dude who had some grapes. But I met a Busch, like as in an Anheuser-Busch person in St. Louis once. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like it's like someone's grandnephew, third removed, but he's one of the. But in St. Louis, if you're one of the Busch family, it's kind of like being the other Busch family in Houston. I reckon it was pretty much royalty. I was like, wow, go figure.
I went to the Mondavi vineyards when we were out there in wine country. Yeah, very pretty. You just keep making stop after stop.
Is that Napa or Sonoma?
Napa.
Never been to Napa Valley. Got to get out there one of these days.
So pretty.
That'd be so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can get the KQ Morning Show out to Napa. No? Zep, you're not buying into that?
Guys, maybe I could work remotely from someplace cool.
Isn't there good riding up there? Like, I heard, isn't that close to the redwoods and stuff? Or am I off?
It's not that far. No, the redwoods are up there.
Like for motorcycles?
Riding for motorcycles?
Oh, yeah. Do you do ride cycles in the redwoods?
I don't know about
I
that.
heard,
things
I've
to
heard
avoid.
that. There's good motorcycle riding up there.
I tell you what, man, I've been out in some of them there redwood forests and them big old sequoias. Those things are, you lose perspective pretty fast on how big they are. You just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, a lot of tall trees, and then you get away and you're like, oh wait, these are like 8 times taller than any tree I've ever seen. This is crazy. I'm fascinated by the fact that at the tops of the redwood forest, there's an entire ecosystem filled with animals who never ever ever touch the ground. There are species that live at the at the canopy at the top of sequoias and redwoods.
Sounds like a James Cameron film.
It does.
Yeah. Same thing down in the Amazon. Yeah, they have a whole ecosystem up there in the canopy.
It's kind of crazy. And they're blue and they ride on flying vehicles.
Exactly.
I don't know. Hey, let's look back.
Come on.
What's happening over there?
Yeah, a couple of glitches today.
Okay, well, that's all right. I'll do it. Hey, what's happening? History. Hey,
Steve. Morning, class.
Oh, this is way better than what I was doing.
Morning, class.
Wow. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm Steve.
It is Groundhog Day, February the 2nd. On this day in 1954, Clarence Bevo Francis became a household name because my man was playing college basketball for Rio Grande, which was then a Division II university, and he scored in one college basketball game without a three-point line 113 points.
Good God.
Bevo Francis. Scored 113 points. Just a pesky shooting guy. His teammates fed him throughout the entire game. He signed a contract a year later with the Boston Whirlwinds, which was a barnstorming team, drafted in the NBA's third round after the season ended, but he turned it down and said, nope, I can make more money off the court than on it. Chose to work at a steel mill and said, I miss the cheers, but I really need financial security.
Wow.
Bevo Francis, his parents should be ashamed. The kid had a special gift, and you taught him that financial security was more important than the cheers of strangers? What the hell? What the hell? On this day in 1968, Wilt Chamberlain, one of the great basketball players of all time, of course, he did something that's never been done since. And it's kind of crazy. Everyone talks about he scored 100 points in a game. His most impressive game to me was on this day in 1968. He only scored 22 points. But alongside that, he had 25 rebounds and 21 assists. That's not a triple-double. That's a double triple-double.
That's a show-off.
That's over 20 in all three stats. That is probably and no one talks about it, but that's the greatest game in NBA history.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candice, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Friday, February the 2nd. That is, of course, Groundhog Day. Puxatawny Phil has not seen his shadow. It's spring. Winter is done. Winter never got here. So, yeah, way to go, Groundhog. Congrats for, looking up at the sun and saying, hey, that thing's hot in the distance. I don't know. We'll see. I think he's probably right, though. I have yet to see a forecast 10 days out that gives me any hope that we're actually going to get some snow around here. We'll see. But anyway, the groundhog, the rodent in Pennsylvania has spoken. His groundhog ease. 1 hour from right now, we're going to give away some tickets to either Marshall Tucker and Jefferson Starship or Train and REO Speedwagon. A couple of double bills coming up in the Twin Cities this summer, and we have tickets, and we're going to play a fun game. That's at 8 o'clock. It's always a good time around here. At 9 o'clock on this show, in this studio, Matthew Broussard will be with us. He's at Acme this weekend. He's a very, very funny gentleman. I look forward to hanging out with Matthew Broussard. Right now, as it is, again, February 2nd, a lot of people from Minnesota heading south, heading west, heading anywhere but here, going to the beach, looking for the sunshine. It's vacation time for a whole lot of our friends and neighbors. And my first thought goes right to how many times I've been on vacation and it just sucked.
I've had a few.
Things go wrong at home all the time and you just move on. But, man, when you have paid and you have traveled and something goes wrong, it just really sticks to you, unless it happens to someone you're with and not you. Case in point, in 1991, the first time my wife and I ever took a trip together, she was not my wife yet, had a break in tour. I was on the road a lot, and it was the first year I had a little extra cash in my pocket, and I can tell you exactly how much I had. I think I had $9,000 total, like on Earth. But that was $8,000 more than I'd ever had at one time in my life. So I was flush. And I was talking to my brother, and he and his wife had just gone to the Virgin Islands. And he goes, you can fly to St. Thomas, and then there's this little island next to it called St. John, and it's paradise. And that's literally all I knew. I went, okay. Mm-hmm. They got flights from Atlanta that are nonstop to St. Thomas. Booked 2 tickets. We flew down, got a ferry, ended up on St. John. There was one hotel at that time on the island, like a resort. And we just went for a long weekend. And I was like, I'd never been anywhere near the Caribbean. I'd never seen water that was clear. I mean, it was. I was like, oh my God, this is how people live. This is the most amazing thing on earth. And for 4 days, I was just in heaven. My girlfriend / now wife, a couple problems. One, she's of Italian heritage, great sun, great tanning history. She would get a tan in an hour in the summer. In a normal part of the world, close to the equator, she'd never been sunburned a day in her life. She'd never experienced a sunburn. She could just walk out. She not anymore, because I was like, hey, you should probably get some suntan lotion down there. I think we're down. It's different sun. She's like, oh, we'll see. And she laid out in the sun like her normal process for maybe 20 minutes and just got burnt, got roasted, and was painful, and she'd never experienced it. I'm like, you've never been sunburned? What the hell? And then that's when the spider bit her up and down her leg. And it was some bizarre spider where we had to go to the clinic on the island, and the guy said, yeah, it's a good thing you came here. If you'd waited till tomorrow, it would start dissolving the tissue. And it's like a whole thing.
Oh, man.
Right, then have a little sign punched in the sand, look out for the flesh-eating spiders.
Yeah, and so she's got sunburn and hard antibiotics. And we came back, and by the way, for several years, people go, how was it? I'm like, man, it was amazing. And she'd look at me and go, it was amazing. I was laid up in a hot. I'm like, well, I mean, other than that, but it was just great.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then finally, I just had to start. I had to change my story to, it was really bad. We got sunburned and bit by spiders because she was so angry. I thought we had a great trip. No, that's not how it went.
Not a romantic getaway.
So I'm like, do you want to go back to St. John? She's like, why? So I can die? I'm like, no. But truth is, that is actually where we got got married. I did talk her back into it. We had a great trip for the
Oh,
wedding.
all right. So
Yeah.
you did a make good.
But
Give her a ring with a spider on it.
just tattoos, just matching spider tattoos. There's been a few others, but we had some of them. I have been sick on vacation. We've had things go wrong.
Oh yeah.
It happens. But Zepp, you had an issue in the Dells. You said.
Well, so having grown up in South Dakota, I wasn't hip to the Dells. That's just a classic weekend trip for Minnesota families to run the kids out to the Dells. But I was a big fan of the Gear Daddies. I'm like, oh, yeah, I love that song, You're Going to the Dells, taking the family to the Dells. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, that's what I did growing up. So having had two daughters born in Minnesota, I thought, we've got to go to the Dells. These girls have to experience the Dells. We truck it on out there. And they're known for their water resorts, right? But I'm an outdoorsy guy, and I want my girls to camp. We're not going to some water resort. Sure, we'll hit a water park or two, but we're going camping, and I'm going to show you girls what tubing's all about. Well, it was a drought year, so they haul you about 6 miles away from your campground, drop you and the tubes off. The bus takes off. We hop in the water and float out to the middle, and about 20 minutes later, I noticed we haven't moved a foot. There is no current. We're just dead in the water. So I leap out of my tube and thought I'll start swimming us and get us moving here. Leap out of the tube. It's about 6 inches deep. Just muddy, 6-inch deep puddle of water I'm standing in. Bus is gone. So I'm walking now a bunch of tubes tied together, 6 miles. Took me about 5 hours. The girls cried or slept the entire time. Pretty sure they were suffering from heat exhaustion.
Sure.
Everybody very upset. We get back to the campground. I'm like, all right, let's just get up there, we'll start a little fire, we'll get some marshmallows going, it'll be a fun night. Kid you not, God, with his sense of humor, the skies opened up. Massive downpour, suddenly on a drought year. I mean, it poured for hours. We had standing water in the tent. Again, everyone crying. Next morning, packed up, everybody very muddy, everything just thick, gooey mud. And we went to a resort and checked in and tried to salvage our vacation in the Dells.
That's how that goes. Tony, over the holidays, you and the family, I know you guys were out in the Rocky Mountains. You killed a hiker, right? Didn't you have to bury a body out there?
Well, he was lipping
Great
off.
place to do it.
And luckily, I had a machete.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking back, my girlfriend at the time took me to Florida, and we went parasailing. So we were up 400 feet up in the sky.
Sorry, that's just what a great setup.
Yeah, but
we went parasailing.
But of course, no sunscreen. I was college age dope, and I got the worst sunburn of my life. I was just lobster boy, and I couldn't move.
Yeah.
I walked around in the hotel, and people would stop and just go, "Oh."
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, when
someone would just touch your skin and then there'd be that white spot that would just then turn cherry red again.
I think it's so cute that that's your worst vacation moment. That's happened to me like a bunch
every summer.
So, is it true, Candice? Is it true that you can actually get sunburned in a dark room?
Yeah, probably.
It's like some people say they smell food and gain weight. You think about the sun and your skin turns red, right?
Yeah.
The translucent Candice Wheeler, I believe we established last year.
That happened to me when I went to North Carolina last year. I got real sunburned.
I remember.
But my worst, when I was a kid, I went on a cruise and I get really seasick and motion sickness and stuff. But that was the first time I ever experienced it, and it was just awful. I was so sick. I was throwing up. My parents ditched me, and they went to do like the little excursion. They left me on the boat, and then when I came back, I was like dying, and so they took me to the what is it, like, with a little spot in the boat, like where the doctor is,
infirmary.
Yeah, so it was in the way basement of the boat, and they stuck me with this shot.
Basement. They dug a hole in the bottom of the boat.
Below deck, all right?
Poured cement.
Below deck, okay?
Steerage, yeah.
Yep, and big needle full of this blue liquid.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And yeah.
NyQuil chicken.
NyQuil chicken. There you go.
I felt better. I don't know, but it was a very traumatizing experience. I'll never go on a cruise again.
They've done it's international law and children and morphine. There's a whole gray area there. It's just they just do what they got to do.
Once they get you out,
they just settle you right down. Bing, bang, boom. I've been seasick once. I've never had that problem. I can get on a boat, have a good time. I've never been on a cruise, but on just boats. The only time I ever got seasick, it really is It's way worse than I imagined it to be. There's just because, and it was in the Gulf of Mexico on a deep sea fishing boat. On tour, day off on the road, and government mule was out with us, and we were all talking one night, like, hey, let's all get a boat and go deep sea fishing. We did it once; it was fun. We're down in like off of Pensacola, and so we have to take off, and it's November. It's not May or June. It's fall in the Gulf. So it's not like cold, but it's not summery at all. And for whatever reason, we all decided it's a 7 a.m. departure, and we're going to go out a couple of hours, and we're going to be out there all day. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. And for whatever reason, that was the night before that I decided around 2 a.m., screw it. If I go to sleep, I won't want to wake up. I'll just play through the night. Just stayed up all night and thought, what could go wrong? And then I was in the headspace where I thought the funniest thing I could do was walk to the boat holding a martini. Like that would what a great moment this is going to be. By the way, I was in my 30s already. And I got on the boat just up all night and just hammered, but in a great mood. And as the boat goes out to the place, I mean, we're going out into the Gulf for 90 straight minutes to get to this spot. And I'm at the front of the boat, and it's crashing waves, and it's choppy water, and I'm like, the air in my face, I'm loving it. I'm like, this is amazing. The second that boat stopped and he dropped anchor, I got so sick. I mean, I was fine for the ride out, the choppy ride. The minute I was just on a boat, not moving except bobbing in the water, I started getting sick, and I couldn't say, guys, we have to bring the boat back. So I just laid there for 6 hours of pure hell. It never got better.
That's what I understand. My dad, on a deep sea fishing thing, we went out in the Gulf, and same thing. And he said, I mean, he still to this day will say that was the worst day of his life. And I know I went out on a booze cruise in Boston when I was about, 20 or whatever. And it's one of these double-decker whale boats, and you pay $10. It was the 80s, you pay $10, all you can drink. And man, the people that, before they even got super drunk, that just started heaving and puking. And luckily I haven't had the motion sickness thing, but to get off that boat, you had to hold on to the railings to get off when it was docked, because there was so much puke on the deck. It was just like ice rink slick. And it just chunks, and the booze cruise. Good thinking there.
Sorry.
I'm looking at Carol's on the KQ Facebook post. By the way, 651-989-ROCK. You got a vacation disaster story for us. First trip to Disney for my 4-year-old, ends up with flu, throwing up in the hotel, sick the whole time, dry heaving on the plane back home. On top of that, Dad, who was with us, tripped, fell face first on a curb in Magic Kingdom, chipped his teeth, bloody face, while Mickey Mouse was in the background on the parade. There's Dad bleeding out.
I've fallen.
Yeah. Or Nancy, who checked into their reserved hotel room in Anchorage at 3 a.m., opened the door, and there were people sleeping in their beds. Whoops. Welcome to your vacation. That's how that started. Man, oh, man. All right, we got to keep this going. We'll keep it rolling. We've got some other things to get into this morning. Steve already mentioned we got the game show, concert tickets up for grabs, yes or BS, at 8 o'clock. 7:30, let's hear about your vacation disaster in person. Let's get the phones lit up. 651-989-ROCK. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Friday, February the 2nd, which is Groundhog Day. Happens every year. Here's something that doesn't happen every year. In fact, it doesn't happen very often at all. But April 8th of this year is a Monday. There will be a total solar eclipse that begins over the southern Pacific Ocean, and it will cross North America, Mexico, the U.S., and Canada. The total darkness zone of this bad boy, sadly, will not come near the Twin Cities. But if you're going to be in eastern Texas or northwest Arkansas or southeast Missouri, et cetera, on up through towards Canada, you're going to get a few minutes of total darkness in the middle of the day. Remember the last time there was the giant eclipse in 2017 or 18? Did you guys remember that one? Because that passed right over my hometown of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And that was the place in America where it had the longest dark out, 3 seconds longer than wherever else.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were selling They were talking it up for a decade. I mean, it's crazy that they know that far in advance. But literally for 10 years, Hoptown was like Eclipse Town, and every hotel within 80 miles was sold out 2 years in advance. Wow. Thousands of people descended upon that area to just get the maximum. And I was in Nashville on that day of the eclipse, and we got 12 seconds less than the top place. But in the middle of the afternoon, the light just starts changing, and it gets colors in the sky you've never seen before at 1 p.m. And then all of a sudden, for 3.5, 4 minutes, it's dark. It's pitch dark, if it's nighttime.
Describe the colors.
And the bugs come out. The cricket, the nighttime sounds happen, and you can, but they're a little off because all the animals are like, "What the hell's happening?" Birds are flying around weird. It was crazy. The sky looks like it gets. It was purpley and grays and some greens, not like Northern Lights that intense, so vivid, but just these vague colors that just don't make sense. It's like a weird thing. And my wife and we were at another couple's house, and they had a big backyard, sort of a clear area, and we just sat there as the whole thing rolled in really slowly. And it was really, really weird for the sun to just disappear for 5 whole minutes in the middle of the afternoon. And another one's happening anyway, Monday, April 8th. But sadly, as I said, for actual blackout darkness, nowhere near here, sadly, because it's cool.
Road trip.
Yeah, maybe that could be a road trip. Stranger things have happened.
I'll bring my barf bag.
Okay, bring the barf bag. Vacations do go south often, and if you're booking a vacation to go watch a 4-minute eclipse, you better make sure the barfing's done early. Can you imagine?
Ugh.
Somebody's going to take a road trip to get somewhere for those magical 4 minutes, and somebody will fall right before and are you okay? I think I broke my leg. And then they look up and the sun's back up, and they're like, thanks, dude. You ruined our vacation. Invariably, that's going to happen to somebody. We've been talking about some vacation mishaps. Candice, we have a caller, I believe, who wanted to share a story.
Oh, yeah. KQ listener, trip goer, Lisa from Rochester.
Lisa, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you got for us?
I have a story that Candice might remember because it was our second year my husband and I went on the Punta Cana trip.
Okay.
And we had convinced another couple to go with us, and so we are down by Rochester, so we were driving up the night before because we had to get on the plane at an ungodly hour. And we get to the hotel, we get booked in, the husbands are taking care of that. Of course, the women are off to the bathroom, and I come out, and we have to drive around the hotel to the backside, to our room. And we get in the car, and they said, okay, so what do we want to do? Do we want to get food? Do we want to check in? I said, I think y'all need to take me to the emergency room. And my husband looked at me like, what are you talking about? And we ended up at some rinky-dink emergency room because I had such horrible pain. It turned out I had a kidney stone.
Oh, no.
I was going to say gas, but yeah.
And I said, you need to figure this out because I need to be on a plane in about, 6 hours. So I spent the night up all night hoping and praying it would pass before we had to get on. They sent me with a handful of Oxy and my little strainer kit to take on my trip to the sand. And on that trip, my husband also got the worst sunburn ever, but he ended up winning $100 for the worst sunburn, if you remember. And we ended up spending most of that on aloe vera cream. And
poor dear.
No.
Oh, God.
Those Minnesotans headed for warm weather. Just lather up. Just get looking like Candice. You want to be all white, head to toe, in sunscreen.
Well, and he said, "Oh, I don't wear sunscreen. I don't need it. I'm a man,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's a lot cooler by the ocean, but the sun is a lot more intense. And he was.
Yeah.
Turns out the sun is the man, right? Yeah, in those situations.
And being the man that any man is, he wants to have the story of my sunburn was so horrible, and it's like, yeah, dude, kidney stones. Okay, you're in second place.
Right,
you can't.
exactly.
No one cares about your little sunburn. Okay.
Distant
I
second.
would sooner give birth 4 more times to my kids than have another kidney stone.
Well, I was going to ask, is that the only time that's happened? One and done?
No, it's happened.
Oh, no. I'm
since,
sorry.
But now I can predict it.
Okay, well, man, hang in there. Good luck to you. That's rough.
Oh, that's
so far,
awful.
you're sitting you're the clubhouse leader for worst moment on vacation. If that's any consolation right now. Thanks for the call.
Well,
Thanks, Lisa.
that is the worst moment. Thanks, Lisa. But I think this is the funniest one. David, on the KQ Facebook page, got drunk in San Francisco. Had to pee in the middle of the night. Went to the bathroom, shut the door behind me. I then realized I'm naked in the hallway.
Oh, sure. You know
And
what I
he's gotta
call
pee.
you know what I call getting drunk in San Francisco?
What?
Going to San Francisco.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
a handful of places where I just get there and suddenly I'm like, where's that drinking hat?
My drinking hat.
San Francisco's one of those places. You're just like, the energy here's odd. I better drink a whole bunch of beer. Yeah, man.
Oh, how about a lease? They borrowed a hard plastic topper, for the pickup, one of the toppers. They're driving down to Georgia from Minnesota. While driving through Ohio on the turnpike, the plastic top lifted off, flew across the turnpike into the ditch. They didn't even know it. Thankfully, no one was injured, but they did leave the plastic topper in Ohio on the turnpike that they had borrowed.
I've been driving. I was driving my brother's pickup truck in 1987 with that plastic camper topper on the back, and I was on a very, very congested 6-lane freeway, and that thing just blew right off at 70 miles an hour. And there was a car right behind me. And right before it blew off, I think the guy saw it shaking or something because he just jerked over to another lane and missed it by seconds. It probably would have, I can't imagine the damage it would have caused. And I'm just driving in this little Chevy, tiny little pickup truck, and all of a sudden just the sound changed, and I look back, and that thing is blasting back off the back of the truck, and it landed, it bounced. It hit the highway, the lane. I'm in the left lane, and it bounced once and immediately shot to the left, which is towards the giant concrete median, and just came to rest against the median. It didn't hit another car. It got off the road on its own.
Nice.
It was a miracle shot. That somehow nobody else was injured or killed or destroyed. It could have been only worse than it was. It was the perfect possible way for that thing to blow off at high speeds. Wow. And by the time I could get over 5 lanes to the next exit ramp, I had missed an exit. By the time I could pull up the highway, go up the ramp, turn around, go back the other direction, because I'm like, I got to go retrieve this thing.
Yeah.
By the time I got back even close, it was gone. Somebody had just scooped it up.
Weird.
Yeah, it was totally gone.
Hey, look at that perfectly good topper just laying there.
And by the way, you know who never
believed?
And you know who didn't believe one word of that story? My brother, whose truck it was. He's like, I can't believe. Would you sell it? That's what he said. Yes, I sold your camper topper.
Yeah, because that means he probably didn't have it secured properly.
Well, of course he didn't. Of course he didn't. I'm like, what's wrong with you, Candice? Do we have another caller?
Yes, we have John from St. Paul.
John, good morning, brother.
Good morning, brother.
What do you got for us?
Well, I was probably 12 years old out in upstate New York visiting family on vacation. My cousin had gotten a new bike, and the road they lived on, the one end of the road was a super steep hill. I mean, steep enough to where nowadays I probably wouldn't let my kids have went down it at that age.
Sure.
Just because the speed you get going down it, you don't even have to pedal. It's obnoxious. Well, I took my bike up there, and I thought, I'm doing this. Well, not my bike, my cousin's bike, and I start flying down the hill, and I'm moving, and I'm screaming, having a blast, and all of a sudden, boom, something hit me in the eye. And by the time I realized what it was, I wiped out, crashed into the weeds, got up, and I had gotten stung right directly on the eyeball.
Oh,
man. And
I'm closing my eyes.
My eye was literally this. It looked like you had taken a softball and put it in my eye instead.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. I think that was the second morning, or that was the first morning of waking up on vacation. We were there for 2 weeks, and it was 2 weeks. All I wanted to do, I kept telling my mom and dad, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
I just want to go home. And I just remember that whole 2 weeks was just, everybody. We'd go anywhere, go into McDonald's, go into town to get McDonald's. Everybody's looking at me like, what the? So it happened to him because my eye was massive.
Oh, man.
Oh, that
That's
is
my first stung on the eyeball story I've ever heard.
God.
And even the doctors, when they took me to the doctor, they said, he actually stung you on the eyeball.
Oh, stop. I can't take it.
I know. Oh, God.
You didn't. I would imagine the first thing that comes to mind is, well, clearly you lost vision and they had to get rid of your eye, but obviously that didn't happen.
Nope. But I'll tell you what, I couldn't. My face hurt so bad for I think it took almost a week for the swelling to start to subside.
Oh,
Did you have
Lord.
supervision with that eye? Could you zoom in on things from a
Like Spider-Man?
long ways
I
away?
couldn't see.
No, right?
anything.
Man, that's
I
awesome.
couldn't see anything, and they were surprised that I even got my eyesight back. The doctors actually thought I was gonna. They wouldn't tell my parents, "Oh yeah, his eye will be okay." They wouldn't say that to him because they didn't know.
Sure.
Yeah, well, hell.
No repercussions after that. Everything's cool.
Nope, everything's cool. Everything's copacetic since then. But man, it was literally as soon as you guys started talking about big vacation disasters, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
I bet
that's
you don't let a
that's-
bug get
eyeball.
near your face, do you? You don't let a bug get anywhere near your face now. One of those
No,
stingers,
and
a wasp, a bee.
I can't
right.
stand bees. I can't. Oh my God,
Those sons of.
nightmares. They're saying nightmares.
That's all right.
fair.
Well, you've literally turned all of our stomachs. Thank you for the call, man. That's great.
Yeah, that's tough to beat. I was just going to launch into Mike's story on the KQ Facebook page. He was doing a little zip lining down and then a water slide while he was in Costa Rica and got bit by the Fertilance viper.
Oh.
Yeah, thought he swatted what he thought it was a weed. Turned out to be the viper bit him. Spent a few days in the hospital in Costa Rica. Wouldn't recommend getting anti-venom.
Oh,
all right.
Good Lord. Boy, the eye thing, though, I get so... My brother had an eye injury as a kid. He was actually just hit by a rock because back in the 70s, we would have rock fights. You just pick up a rock and throw it at somebody. It's like John's story. I'd never let my own kid ride down this hill, but in the 70s, we just did that. Go down the steepest hill you can. But a few guys at the creek in the neighborhood, and they're throwing rocks across the creek at each other, and one just smacked my brother Doug right in his face. And his eyelid split open. He had to have stitches in his eyelid. Oh, it's awful.
God,
and the photos was the slides we still have. It just looks gruesome. And he's walking back to the house, and so it's my brother Doug's eye is bleeding. My older brother Dave is helping him walk home. And I'm in the front yard, and I see them coming, and I can tell there's a lot of blood, and Doug's crying. And Dave screams, "Doug got hit by a rock." And I turn and run into the house, and I announce to my 3 oldest brothers and my father, "Doug got hit by a car," because that's what I thought. That's what I thought Dave said.
Right.
And my dad and my 3 oldest brothers are off that couch and zooming out the front door, wah! And they hit. And Doug's standing there, and my dad's like, "What the hell happened?" And Dave's trying to explain it, but everyone's just freaking out. And Doug looks like the Zapruder film. He's just got a bad head wound. And my dad goes, "Where's the damn car?" And I'm like, and there's a car at the stop sign in front of our. I go, "I guess it's right there."
Oh,
and literally,
Steve.
and my dad just tears down that hill, goes up, all but pulls a man out of his vehicle. Before Dave is going, no, it was a rock. And someone almost lost their life because 6-year-old Steve is what do you call it? What kind of narrator would that be? Unreliable narrator? Yeah.
Got a fantastic imagination.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. Can you imagine? I don't know. I was just sitting in my car, and this man in a tie and wingtips pulled me out through the window and beat me to within an inch of my life. Oops. These things happen.
These things.
What are you going to do?
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candice, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
This is the KQ Morning Show. Happy Groundhog Day, one and all. In case you haven't been outside in the last few months, you may have noticed not much of a winter in the Twin Cities. Punxsutawney Phil over in Pennsylvania has predicted and announced and declared and decreed and, well, he's probably just eating grass now. Anyway, he said a little over an hour ago, no more winter. Spring is going to sprung, and spring is upon us. Candice, I know that makes you very happy. Really, what makes you happy is just seeing that damn groundhog.
I just think he's a cutie pie. But do you ever wonder, you think he ever just wants to sleep in?
Yeah.
He has some, moral obligation to...
Of course he does.
Moral obligation. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Remember, though, that he's wrong most of the time.
Yeah, but I'm just disgustingly positive, I suppose.
That's my new favorite phrase for 2024. You're disgustingly positive. Do you know that?
Okay, I have been having spring fever. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
Yesterday, I was outside walking the dog in a tank top. It was wild.
Why was the dog
that
in a
is
tank
wild.
top?
Gigi's, that's a tiny
Poor
little
Gigi.
tank to get on Gigi like that. Wow. Groundhog, fun fact, and a woodchuck, same thing. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck? It's a groundhog. It's the same damn animal. It just depends on where you grow up, what you call him. What did you see? What's the chagrin, Tony?
I'm not telling.
Oh,
No.
what do you mean you're not telling?
Oh.
What does that mean?
So I may have
Jeez.
to change a question on my game here.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, I ruined it.
No, it doesn't matter. It's not a difficult one anyway.
All right.
It's all pure fun.
How much hog would a groundhog hog if a groundhog could hog? I don't know. So this is the fourth year in a row. I'm sorry. This is the first year in 4 that Phil hasn't seen his shadow. The last 3 years, Phil spotted his shadow, and they said 6 more weeks of winter, and usually that's how it goes. But today they were like, nope, spring is here. Coming into today, he had seen his shadow 107 times, plus one partial shadow in 1942. Someone in 1942 is working a little too hard. Get over yourself. Partial shadow.
Yeah, right. What are you doing?
For 10 years, there are actual no record. I guess they just were too drunk to pay attention. During Prohibition, Phil threatened to take drastic action. He said if they didn't let him have a drink, he'd impose 60 more weeks of winter. Literally.
Phil's a boozer.
Yeah, Phil's a boozer. Some dude in a top hat during Prohibition was literally like, if you don't give me some more of that furniture varnish, I'm going to choke the life out of you. Man, they were having a problem. 40,000 people turned up in 2020, and a year later, because of COVID, not one person. That was the biggest gap. But it's a couple thousand people, but ever since Groundhog Day, the movie Groundhog Day 30 years ago, it has gone up. It's like 30 to 40,000 people now. And as Zepp said, if you ever watch this nonsense happen, within moments, it's like a New Year's Eve party. By 12:20, it's just deserted.
Yeah.
This groundhog comes out, does his thing, and 15 minutes later, it's just solo cups. The whole town square filled with
over.
empty solo cups. And people are going to sleep it off.
The live cams that they show, the fun part to watch is, right after they do their thing, and it just, people clear out of the park, and you see all the solo cups. The year that we did it, there were 4 people, spread eagle, just passed out in the park.
That's great.
That was kind of fun. I don't know if they saw their shadow or not, but...
Man, it's kind of like the KQ trip up north we took.
Yeah, a little bit like that, yeah.
That's it. Show's over.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, you know what? Speaking of the show, there's a bunch of shows. Well, all year round. There's no shortage of concerts, but summer around here is pretty special every year. Monday, July 8th at the Somerset Amphitheater over in Wisconsin, Train and REO Speedwagon will be playing. That's a whole lot of hit songs. A little sooner than that, Sunday, May 19th at the Mystic Showroom, you got Marshall Tucker Band and Jefferson Starship. We're going to play a game. The winner gets to choose which tickets they want. The runner-up will have the other tickets. This sounds like it's a fun way to pass the next few minutes on the KQ Morning Show. Tony, what are we going to play today?
We love playing this, and we're going to do a special version today.
That is bull.
Yes.
And I say that is bull.
Oh my God, that is bullshit.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Okay, here we go now. The game is
Yes.
Yes!
Yes!
bullshit.
The KQ Morning Show presents
Yes.
or
BS.
1,000 people freezing their butts off waiting to worship a rat. The true excitement of a large squirrel predicting the weather.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, we're going to do a special Groundhog Day version of this fine game. We're going to read a statement and just simply, is it true or a bunch of BS?
I
yes
like it.
or BS.
Yes or BS, or as the French would say, oui or BS.
Not the we.
No, we or not we. We or pas de nuit. So let's get to it, Candice. We've got a couple of callers locked in and loaded. Who's number one?
Mark from New Hope.
Mark, good morning.
Morning.
Are you ready for some yes or BS, my man?
I'm ready.
That's a good answer. Tony, take it away.
All right, sir. Time to win. Your first one, Groundhog Day is celebrated every year on February 2nd. Yes or BS?
True. It's yes.
Yes, it is yes.
I like that.
Next one, Puxantawny Phil is the name of the groundhog that predicts the length of the season and the duration of winter.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow, just this is underhand softball today.
Yeah, I want people to win.
Okay.
Number 3, the groundhog also goes by the name Woodchuck.
Woodchuck? Yes.
Yes. All right.
I prefer
Are you sure about that?
I prefer woodchuck. I like the H added that Tony added. Woodchuck.
2 more, my man. Ground Chuck Day occurs at a Pennsylvania smokehouse the day after Groundhog Day, when the groundhog is slaughtered and served to local firefighters on sourdough rolls.
Yes.
Correct. That is utter nonsense.
But boy, we wanted it to be true.
Oh.
Hey, we found out this morning from Steve, the kickoff, they used to eat the groundhog back in the 19th century. When they first started it, it would, whatever, he made his prediction, and then in the crock pot he went.
But it's pretty good. Maybe a little gamey.
Yeah, well, probably a little bit.
I'd try it. All right. Your last one, the Wood Chunk Chuck, is an event held by lumberjacks to determine who can hold on to a termite-infested log the longest until they throw it. Yes or BS?
Really?
Oh, yes.
You're going to say yes? I am
BS.
sorry. It is BS.
Maybe we can bring that one up to Brainerd this year.
Wow.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5,
Yeah.
Mark. That is
Nice.
that's not too shabby by any measure, brother. Very well played. We're going to stick you on hold for a minute, Mark. Hang tight. Contestant number 2, Candice. Who would that be?
Ken from Plymouth.
Ken, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How you feeling? You ready to play yes or BS?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go, Kenny, baby. Tony?
Kenny? Groundhog Day occurs between the winter solstice and the spring equinox.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Your second one, released in 1993, the movie Groundhog Day stars Paris Hilton and Samuel L. Jackson.
Bunch of BS.
Yeah, darn right. It's a bunch of BS.
Sure.
Number 3, in the 1960s, a volunteer was bitten by the groundhog and died from shock live on TV. Then, in a desperate attempt at humor, a reporter held up the man's body to see if it showed a shadow, and the reporter was ostracized and fired.
Whoa, bunch of BS.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
But again, we sure wish it was true.
Yeah, maybe next year.
How about this? The TV show Alf was originally called Puxatawny Alien.
Bunch of BS.
Wow.
Correct, sir. I know. Sounds like it could be.
Ken going 4 for 4 right out of the gate. Strong. Ken, if you get this one right, you're the winner today, brother.
Kenny, if the hibernating groundhog sees its shadow, there will be an expected 6 more weeks of winter.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Bam.
Bam.
Wow. I mean, Mark, impressive 4 out of 5. And then Ken comes in and goes, yeah, you know what? I'll just run the table. Ken, you have the choice, my friend, as today's winner. Marshall Tucker with Jefferson Starship or Train with REO Speedwagon.
Let's go
go with the first one.
Let's go with the first one. Marshall Tucker Band, Jefferson Starship, May 19th at the Mystic Showroom. Have a great time, my friend. Mark, you have tickets to see Train and REO Speedwagon. Gentlemen, fine efforts on both accounts. Thanks for calling.
Thanks.
You got it. All right, fair enough.
Good winning.
Okay, quick note here. We mentioned that a couple weeks ago we had a woman phoned into the show. I believe her name was Bernadette Higgins, and she was the executive producer of a Netflix documentary called American Nightmare.
That's right.
Remember, charming gal from Northern Ireland? She was just a delight. I made the mistake of watching American Nightmare yesterday.
Did you?
I watched all 3 episodes back to back to back. I was shaking by the time it ended. I couldn't sit still. I'm still upset about it, and I wish I hadn't remembered that I'm upset about it. I've never been more freaked out and angry, and I want to just... there's 2 things I want to do. There's certain people in this documentary that I want to go give a big hug to and ask them if I can get some groceries for them or, wax their car. And then there's some people that I want to put on a boat to the gates of hell and light it on fire. It is the most enraging and mind-blowing thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was so scary. I was just imagining my friends in that situation or myself. Like,
and just there's that yes, horrible situation, but the response to the situation from certain people, I don't want to give anything away. I'm just going to say, if you have a chance to watch it, just make sure that it's 3 episodes. They're all about 45 minutes long. So it's just a little over 2 hours. Just have that time clear because you're not going to stop watching it.
Yeah, I warned you last week that you've not seen anything quite like it. And I was waiting. I didn't know Candice had watched it. I was waiting till someone else had watched it.
Oh, my God.
So we could. But what do you say? I mean, because once you start talking about it, and you've got to let people see it, it's one of these streaming shows, and let people see it, but you don't want to stop talking about it. I've not watched anything. Movie, fiction, documentary, whatever, a Sunset, whatever, a Sturgis. I've never witnessed anything quite like what happens in this documentary.
I can't wait to see that.
I tell you one takeaway, and this is the most, there's something that always just pisses me off, and lately more than ever, which is anybody that's gone through a traumatic event, like, when you watch their reaction and you decide that they're either guilty or innocent by how they're acting, that is such nonsense. No one can predict how anyone is going to react to anything that ever happens to them. Like, well, he's acting guilty. It's like, well, he's just been through a traumatic thing, and you have no idea what his central nervous system is doing. I mean, there's the flight or fright or freeze or flee. There's these things. You can never predict. I mean, we did a whole story on this a few months ago. Like an algorithm was able to predict. You put people in front of a judge, right? They're up for charges, and a judge has to decide: do I let this guy go out on bond, or do I keep him in the joint? And all these judges say, "Oh, I want to look the man in the eye. I want to get a sense if this person actually feels remorse." And judges blow it constantly. And then someone came up with like an algorithm, like an AI thing, just a computer thing, and you just entered the person's information, and it was way more successful. And then they showed the film. There's like these mumblers who can't look the judge in the eye, and they're just looking down, and they're the guys that just want to go fly right, and they're just so ashamed, and they'll never break another law. And then the guys who look the judge in the eye go, "I've learned my lesson, Your Honor. You can." They're just crazy sociopaths. And this idea of, oh, well, the guy wasn't yelling back. They said, "I think you did it." And he goes, "No, I didn't." And you're like, oh, if he's innocent, he'd be upset about that. You have no idea how people are going to react as mine. Right. And this is the greatest example of that ever. You're watching people who've gone through something. And again, I don't want to give it away. And if you think you know anything about what their body language and about what their demeanor, if you think there's any connection to what they've experienced, you're completely wrong.
How many episodes?
3. It's less than 3. It's 2.5 hours, start to finish. You won't believe it. It's phenomenal.
Amazing.
And we spoke to the woman who she made the documentary before. We spoke to her the day it hit Netflix, and none of us had seen it. And I'm kind of glad, because if we were talking to her today, I'd literally just be like yelling. How did it? It was.
I know.
I mean, I don't get too worked up about things that often, but man, I was yesterday by myself, watched it, and I was physically. I'm not kidding. I was shaking and just like I was out of my mind. I've been in several really weird situations, and I was thinking about this yesterday. When I was 16. At a family restaurant, a guy came in and attacked our chef with a tire iron. It's a really long, bizarre story. He truly tried to kill our chef. And came real close to doing so. And this happened about 6 feet away from me. I watched this guy open the back door and charge and assault a friend of mine with a tire iron. And I froze. And I don't mean like I was scared so I didn't do anything. I mean, I was in my brain, I was yelling and running towards him, and my body didn't move. I literally was. It was like I had a nerve blocker for my entire. I could not move, and that happened, and I was embarrassed about it later. Like my brother and my dad ran in, and there was a huge fight, and then all of a sudden I snapped out of it, and it was all what it was. But for the first 5 seconds, as I'm watching a guy that I enjoy, loved, a cool guy, I loved hanging out with him, a buddy of mine, I watched him being attacked. My body completely shut down.
Yeah.
And of course, then and there have been other situations where I was Johnny on the spot, like, hey, wait a minute,
Right.
But that was the heaviest thing. That was the heaviest thing I ever seen at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, go, 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 and nothing happened. It was. And so anybody that would have seen that video, you'd go, what a wuss. And I'm like,
oh, no.
Yeah, it's just, you just have no idea how you're going to respond to anything.
No, and you were completely surprised by it. Your mind was trying to still determine what the hell was happening.
Yeah.
By the time your father and brother had run in, I imagine you ran out and said, our chef has been hit by a car. And I'm kidding. I'm
to follow up. Yeah,
you
that's
never
right.
go back on the show. That's the last segment. But I mean, by the time they ran in, they already knew something was wrong. They're in action mode. What you did was actually quite common and does apply to this American Nightmare. Yeah, it's some pretty bizarre stuff. I watched it on a school night thinking I'll just watch an episode and then I'll finish it later if I like it. I'm the king of not finishing things.
Not possible.
Oh, no. I watched the entire thing till the end. I didn't even know there was a break. I just kept tripping on to the next episode and then did not go to sleep that night. I remember like 1 o'clock in the morning, I fell asleep and dreamt about I had the American Nightmare in my sleep for a little bit.
I literally have goosebumps right now just thinking about. I mean, it's really impacted me that hard. I'm so amazed at all the true crime crap you see. You get inundated with it, and eventually you kind of get numb to it, I guess. I'm literally, as we're speaking, my arms are just. I have goosebumps everywhere. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, no,
we're going to insist. In fact, we're going to shut the show down today. We're going to insist you turn around and go back home. Here's what we're all doing today. You know what I want to do? I already forget the director's name that you've mentioned a couple of times, but I'd like to have her back on after everybody's probably seen this in a month or so, and then just really have her on for like 3 hours.
Yeah, we
and
could.
Ask her 50 questions.
It's
that I have.
phenomenal.
But we do have to push along here. By the way, American Nightmare, not an American vacation disaster, but they're still piling up on the KQRS Facebook page. We'll open the talk and text line again, 651-989-ROCK, for any vacation disaster, tongue-in-cheek, that may have come your way. We've been having some fun with that this morning. We're loving this list of the weirdest things patients have brought to the ER. We're going to run down some of that for you here at 8:30. Matthew Broussard, headlining Acme. He's our guest at 9. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Groundhog Day, February 2nd. That was the Allman Brothers Band, Ramblin' Man. I get pretty cooked up when I listen to the ABB. Can you imagine? Yeah. Just picture them in the studio listening back. Like, that's the take, and they got it all mixed, and they're sitting there listening. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. Hey, man, that thing you did there, good job. They're all looking around each other going, and these guys are all in their early and mid-20s.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're going, I think we're kind of doing something wholly new and original and amazing, yeah, okay, cool. Let's do that. Print it. Man, that gets me going. I love that. We had a caller earlier on the show who called in and talked about taking a trip with KQ down to Punta Cana, and she ended up with a kidney stone, which is just the worst, by all accounts, thing you can ever experience in life. The worst thing that's survivable and somewhat normal. I've never had one. I thank my lucky stars every time I hear about someone having one. And then lo and behold, I look down at the interwebs and I see a list of weird things people have brought into the emergency room with them. I got to go to the ER. I better bring this along. And a guy walked in to an ER with his junk stuck into the vacuum end of a shop vac. And what he said was, I was trying to remove a kidney stone.
Oh, okay. Now, from what I've heard of kidney stones, they're so painful that you might resort to something like that, but I don't believe it.
Yeah, I think you can give yourself the Heimlich on the back of a chair. You always see that dialogue thing. I feel like if I had a kidney stone, I would ask someone to shoot me with a cannonball, like in that old black and white video of the guy taking the cannonball to the gun. Just do something to force this thing out. And so, to your point, Zep, it's so bad. I might look at a shop vac and go, hell, give it a try.
Could I get a bee to sting my eyeball? Yeah, no, maybe something like that.
Man,
I will never make it through if that happens to me, you guys.
No?
I can't imagine. I mean, literally, that's the worst thing I can ever think of happening.
Yeah, it's a good buddy of mine.
You haven't watched American Nightmare.
A good buddy of mine who's a great drummer in a great band, Britt Turner from Blackberry Smoke. I'm not talking out of school. He boarded a flight, a red eye from Las Vegas to Atlanta about 10 years ago. And right as the plane's taking off, he's like, I kind of don't feel good. I'm a little nauseous all of a sudden. And within 30 minutes, it went from kind of nauseous and sweaty to full on, here comes a kidney stone, which he'd never experienced. And apparently having that at 30,000 feet is a whole other set of circumstances. But he's a great guy and a tough guy, and he's been through a lot. And he was just like, there's no describing that pain. It's just a whole nother level.
And then they show them to you often. I know a buddy over there at Abbott, and he went in and they bring it out, and it's a grain of sand. And he's like, that is what made me cry like a little baby.
Well, hey, man,
and
I've got...
my mommy was a grain of sand.
I have the what do you call the wheels? The training wheels on a bicycle. I had training wheels kidney stone, which is called gout. It's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah. All right.
I got a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, I got gout. And that's like the joint of your big toe is where that hits you. And what it is it's a tiny microscopic little crystal of uric acid gets loose in your bloodstream, and it hits the joint in your toe. That's just where it gets caught. And I woke up at 5 a.m. from a deep sleep with the idea that someone had shoved a sword through my foot. Like that, and it hits like that quick, just ding. And I woke up going, what just happened? I mean, it's horrific. And when I was diagnosed and discovered what it was and learned about what that could be, the guy said this is what a kidney stone is. And then I imagined that pain that's in my foot going into my urethra and suddenly realized, no, God, I will do anything to never experience that.
Oh, my legs are clenched together tight right now.
By the way, so a guy did walk into an ER attached to a shop vac. You know what's pretty common is people show up at ERs holding the snake that just bit them.
Oh,
which is actually, I mean, I get that. Like,
all right.
You want proof. I mean, you could just take a photo of it. But if a snake bites me, if I don't die from shock because I have a snake issue to begin with, I could see myself just grabbing that thing and just please make sure this is either venomous or not.
Wouldn't you kill it first, though, before you brought the venomous snake that just bit you into the ER? I'm saying the guy brought in the live snake to bite everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and feel free to kill it. I think they can still identify the dead snake.
Here's a great one. A drunk guy went to the ER. He had hurt himself, and he laid down on the floor, and an onion rolled out of his pocket. I just like that. What is that? A whole onion.
You never know when you might need one.
My grandpa always said, if you're going to drink, make sure you have an onion.
I was just happy to see
What does that even mean?
A half-eaten raw chicken, I guess, we know why they were probably in the emergency room. A half-eaten raw chicken brought it into the ER with him.
Oh, my God.
All right.
I knew a guy years and years ago who I watched a drunk guy eat frozen chicken. I mean, he was drunk and hungry, and there was no food in the apartment, and he opened the freezer, and there was frozen chicken, like drumsticks, and he just started eating them. And we were like, okay, dude, that's not been cooked. He's like, it doesn't matter, it's frozen.
It's like a popsicle, I guess.
What's what he was looking at it like. And for the record, did not get sick. I mean, he was drunk as he was sick from a hangover the next day. Well, he didn't get sick that we knew from the. I mean, he didn't have to go to the ER. Put it that way.
Well, maybe because it was frozen. Maybe that's it went the other way with it. If you can't cook it to a certain temperature for so long, then go ahead and go with the chicken popsicle.
Yeah. Man, I tell you what, there's a lot of people apparently bring animals to the ER with them, emotional support animals.
Oh, comfort.
All right.
Yeah, no, come on, stop.
Yeah, stop it.
If you're going to the ER, you shouldn't have time to think about what do I want to bring. The ER is for E, as in emergency, as in get there quick. Don't think about well, hang on, I better grab my lucky socks.
Bring a coloring book.
And I'd put it, when we took them in to stitch them up, I'd put their animal to sleep. That'll teach them. What about a 45-pound electric meat grinder? Why would someone bring that into an ER?
A 45-pound meat grinder?
Yeah, because the guy's hand was stuck in it.
Yeah.
Oh, what? You push it, you don't. I was in an ER, broke my collarbone, skiing up in the UP up there, and we went, was it Ashland, I think we went back into the clinic, and I'm sitting there in the ER. And they're like, well, you're going to have to wait a minute before we bring you in. We have another emergency just coming in. It's a small little clinic. And I'm thinking, I do have a broken bone, but whatever. And just about 1 minute later, a guy walks past the hallway. I'm in the waiting room there, and he has a big frickin' spiked nail sticking straight out of the top of his head. I went, yeah, he gets to go before me. I'll just watch. It was March Madness, so I was watching some basketball there in the way. I'm like, he goes first, get the nail out of the head. I assume he's all right. I don't know. I didn't follow up with him.
When I went to the ER Memorial Day 1986, I had not one but two broken arms. Okay, it was a freak basketball injury. I've told the story before here on the show. And I walk into the emergency room in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Not a big town, but not a small. It's a large town. It's not a city, but it's a big sized town. 60,000 people. So I walk into the ER, and again, it's Memorial Day, and it's like 6 p.m., and there are 3, 4, maybe 5 people in front of me, all of whom have been burned badly by grilling mishaps on Memorial Day. Drunk, grilling, burned. And I'm like, and I have my left elbow and my right wrist are both just on, feeling like they're on fire. They're both broken, but I'm looking around. I'm like, no, get that guy in there first. I was just like, I can't. Broken arms is nothing. These guys are just torched and wasted, drunk, and in pain.
Oh my gosh.
And they weren't all from the same cookout. It wasn't one grill didn't explode. No, this is completely unrelated. And when I finally was back, backstage, I almost said, when I was back in the area, getting dealt with, and I was like, I mean, what's going on back there? And the guy goes, oh, man, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. It's unbelievable around here. I'm like, wow.
That's like an American tradition, isn't it?
Sure
Going
it is.
To the ER, drunked up and burned from the barbecue.
What if they all got to be friends? It's like, I was making bratwurst.
Yeah, they're like, well, let's get together on 4th of July, because then we'll have fireworks, too. That'd be better.
The rest of the family's back home just eating the potato salad because the meat didn't get cooked. How about this? You're going into the ER. We know that's the emergency room. Just you're going in, they're going to patch you together and get you on your way. Someone brought in Christmas lights. Why? So they could string them up above their bed.
Oh, nice.
Well, you're staying for the season?
Oh, my God.
What's going on there? Brought in your Christmas lights to the ER. String them up over the bed. All right, that's
way too much.
Bizarre.
Way too much thinking. I get it if you bring like a stick of incense. I just like the way this smells. Makes me feel like I'm home. Christmas lights, come on, man.
Right. All right. Well, listen, we have the very dashing. I know it's radio, so I'm just going to throw it in there so people can get it in their head. The very dashing, I think, Matthew Broussard from Acme Comedy Club is going to be joining us here at 9 o'clock. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candice, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It's Friday, February the 2nd. That's Groundhog Day. And that rat bastard did see us. What, Candice?
Yeah,
what the hell happened?
Heck?
Are we having winter? Are we done? I don't even care.
What the heck? You got to be more positive, man. No shadow today, and
So
early spring
All
is
right.
on the way.
Spring has sprung, in case you hadn't looked outside. It's a really nice sunny morning here in the Twin Cities. And in case you're wondering what to do this weekend, the next 2 nights, why don't you go to Acme and see Matthew Broussard, who's a very funny man. He's got 2 shows tonight, 7 to 9:30. 2 shows tomorrow night, 7 o'clock sold out. Only 9:30 is available. You've been there the last 2 nights. Matthew Broussard now happens to be in the studio right here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Great to be here in Minneapolis.
I was going to start by saying, you don't look like that much of a douche in person.
Really?
But then you kind of did. But then I was like, oh, you really do. You got a douchey face. And
I do.
I mean, when I saw that, I saw your. But then, no, hang on. This is not just me coming in off the hot top rope. There's a very funny thing I saw online a few months ago where you were explaining this. You said you look like a guy. You're like the douchebag from a John Hughes 80s movie.
Yes.
You're the high school quarterback that we love to hate.
The feathery blonde hair, the James Spader, the Val Kilmer kind of
We've
type.
all got crosses to bear, and this is yours.
It's a tough struggle out there, yes.
So at what point did you realize, wow, I have that look. I've got the classic American D-bag face.
Probably 22 or 23.
Yeah,
Didn't dawn on me till then. Because I went to school with a bunch of people who really were that. I went to school in Georgia, like a Christian school in Georgia.
Oh, hold on. Where in Georgia?
Atlanta.
Oh, but what school?
Oh, Lovett. The Lovett School.
We have to talk off air.
Oh,
I
yeah?
spent a lot of time in Atlanta, Junior.
Yeah?
Oh, I know some Lovett kids.
Yeah, we were the ones who couldn't get into Westminster.
Yeah.
So
I know some Westminster kids.
They're
much
smarter
older
than us.
than you. Like my generation, Lovett and Westminster.
But you know, it's a real prep school.
Yes,
kinda,
it is.
Old money kind of. Good old boys. Good old boys is just someone who's very racist but still very fun. And I
see. You'd think those things would cross each other off. They're not mutually exclusive, as it turns out.
Yeah, you want to hate. You're like, well, they're a good time. They're a good time. And then I started doing comedy, and people started just being like, that guy, after shows, people would just come drunk. They're like, I didn't like you, and then you said that you look like an 80s villain, and then I liked you. I'm like, well, that's not a polite thing. It's the first thing you ever said to me.
Well, it's tough to be, and I'll just flat out say it, a handsome comic is not what we're used to.
Thank you.
That's not what we're used to seeing.
I think it's been quite normalized lately by people that I don't want to mention, who've made my life easier by having a far more loathsome face.
Yeah.
Whether they paid for it or not. Yeah. So that is interesting, but there's an interesting thing with status and comedy. I think it's more fun to watch someone who doesn't have their life together. Tell jokes because it makes you feel better about yourself.
That's the unspoken unwritten rule, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it helps you on a dating app or a job interview, it doesn't particularly make you funnier.
No, that's very true.
Matthew, I introduced you, teased this segment by saying the very dashing Matthew Broussard, because we've had him before. I know, right? But and I thought to myself, well, at least he's not smart. I mean, he doesn't have both. He doesn't come from a brilliant family of microbiologists and mechanical aeronautical engineers, anything like that, right?
Correct. Oh wait, no, that's wrong.
So
you're the whole package, dude.
Yeah, I'm actually reading this too. So
what am I supposed to say to this? I can't dance.
Both your parents, to suffice to say, very well educated.
Yeah,
siblings very well educated. Everyone's working in super smarty pants areas. What was the reaction to? Oh, and Matthew's going to go tell jokes. Support
is the reaction is still. My mother would love for me to quit. I can't if things are going bad and I have a bad set and things aren't going well. I cannot. What's the word? Seek consolation. Is that the word? In her, because she'll be like, "Yeah, you should quit." She'd be thrilled for that. Yeah. But if I can run a tiny bit here, she would have loved for me to have been a lawyer, and because for stability, recently I asked ChatGPT to write some jokes for me. It's just terrible. It's just not there on that front. But then I had a private performance where I needed a contract. I needed a contract for the performance. I asked ChatGPT to write the contract for me. Did an amazing job.
Right. Oh,
so between lawyer and comedian, comedian is a more stable job.
It's we're only around a couple of S curves from that being real.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of these, it's weirdly the one job that cannot at this point be stolen by AI.
Yeah. Always thinking.
Yep.
Always looking around.
So I'm ahead of the curve.
You are at Acme, as I said. You were there the last 2 nights. I'm assuming both good nights.
Great nights. This is, I think, my 6th time back at this club.
It's fantastic.
It is a real privilege to be here.
Yeah.
It's some of the absolute bests have come through here, still come through here. It's just great. They run really well.
It's Acme and First Ave. There's 2 of the most iconic for music and comedy. The city has that, and I'm saying that as a guy who's still only been here a year. I've always known about both those spots, so you just hear about them anecdotally for many years. So you've been doing comedy now for how long?
Coming up on over 12, I think. Yeah, 12 years.
So did you start? Were you still in high school when you started thinking you might try this?
No, I didn't.
After
I started in a year out of college. I had a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my. I had the only job I applied to, and didn't like it, and just wanted something else.
Where'd you go to school?
Rice University in Houston, Texas.
Oh, Rice in Houston. That's right. And so, but then what was this job? In quotes, you applied for?
I was, I guess it was my second job, but I was a financial analyst, but not what you're thinking. I made, with no disrespect to teachers, about a teacher's salary and worked 9 to 5 hours, snuck out early. Just very unmotivated.
My financial analysis career is still ongoing, and it's constantly just realizing I don't have enough money. That's all I know about that.
We worked with very rich people and invested their money, and some of them were very savvy, business-minded people, and some of them just had money. I'm like, how did you?
Yeah, right.
How do you have all this? You don't know how anything works. How do you have all this? I see your finances.
Yeah. I've known a few. I've crossed paths with a few people that if I didn't know they were so phenomenally wealthy, I would wonder how they made it through one day.
Yes,
it's a phenomenal thing.
I was raised of believing a myth that my father got out of poverty by being a scientist. He was academically propelled despite not having the resources around him. Became a chemist. And kind of made his way into out of the lower class and into the upper middle class with that. And I was told that if you're smart and you study and you learn science and you get a good education, you can be wealthy. But then I realized the wealthiest people aren't good at math or good at numbers or science. No, they're just charming.
Yeah, it's an old Kids in the Hall line. It's amazing how far you can coast on charm.
Yes,
it really is.
I mean, I think the top. Yeah. And I feel like a fool for having studied it all. I should have been at parties learning social skills.
Well, it's all. But see, now you're getting it all in the back end. You're in comedy clubs. It's a nonstop. It's like a rave everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You walked in the studio here, and suddenly AC/DC's cranking, and it's like everywhere the guy goes, walk-up music.
Thunderstruck. Yeah.
So growing up, so you're going to high school in Atlanta, and were you playing sports at all? Did you ever play music, or was it just what was happening? Let's go back to the.
Okay, this is fun.
Let's dig in.
I was my abilities were in mathematics. That was where I showed early promise, and that was what my parents pushed me towards, and it was fun and it was easy for me, and because of that, I didn't care about it. I wanted to be a jock. I wanted to be an athlete. I did every sport. I tried to do every sport. I was on the football team. I was on the soccer team. I tried lacrosse. At one point, I wanted to be a wrestler. Cross country was something I was decent at, but then I didn't try because if I ran, I'd be too skinny and girls wouldn't like me. So I wanted to play football instead. And then finally, late in high school.
You were in Georgia. I mean, that part of the logic checks out.
Yeah, the football is the only way to. That was the coolest thing. And my high school was really good at lacrosse. And I just don't have hand-eye coordination. I can't play team sports. I eventually settled on swimming, which I wasn't super great at, but I really worked at it, and I love that. And
so it's basically you just chase your tail, and at the end of the day, it's right back where you started. You're a mathlete.
Yes, that was all I ever was going to be. Yes,
that's pretty impressive. So, I mean, but that could have gone pretty far. I mean, I'm sure there were academic competitions too. You could have, gone out and the Lovett School Mathletics. I mean, I could just see it.
Yeah, we were. Could have. I did go to one math tournament.
See, okay, I knew
was
it.
Smart,
There had to be one in there.
Then I met the real The people
right,
who
yeah.
are so smart they smell bad.
Yeah, right.
You know? I was like, I'm not that.
Yeah.
I'm not a mathlete, you know?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how many dates a year are you doing these days? I mean, are you on the bounce every weekend?
I'm mostly out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do college gigs and, more other stuff. And now the road is just, I love it. I love doing my hour over and over again and performing all the places I can. And
you said before we came on, you were just in Anchorage?
I was in Fairbanks.
Oh, Fairbanks, Alaska.
But I was in Anchorage in the last year as well.
So you were this is just recently.
November, I think.
November. And that's hang on. If memory serves, that's far away.
That's incredibly far away.
Yeah.
It's a 6-hour drive north of Anchorage, and Anchorage is north of anything here.
And so that from Seattle, that's like a 4 or 5 hour flight,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's like way the hell up.
It's so far away from everything.
Yeah.
They look down. People in Fairbanks look down on Anchorage. They call it Los Anchorage. They're like, oh, that's just a bunch of city people. And then Fairbanks, people will walk up and say, Fairbanks is the middle of Alaska, if you don't know what we're talking about. They'll walk up and say, I'm from Fairbanks, 3 generations. They'll introduce themselves as how long they've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's weirdly, I had an Uber driver or Lyft driver who picked me up in his truck that was also a snowplow.
Sure.
Because he said he owned 4 vehicles and they all made him money.
Right.
And he told me, I said I was from Brooklyn. He goes, there's a lot in common between people who live in Fairbanks and people who live in New York City. Really? And it's both have an arrogance because they survive in a place where everything's trying to kill you.
Right. All right. Yeah.
And he's right in that respect. It is I come here because I like pain, because I don't deserve comfort or happiness.
That's right.
And I think that's true in even the Midwest and cities like this. You got to love pain to weather these winters.
When I told you, I've been here a year, and I still talk to folks who go, Minneapolis, and how? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I mean, that's what they make coats and gloves and hats and skyways. It's okay. But yeah, that's the thing. But you also have a place in Austin, Texas, a crazy boom town.
Crazy boom town. So we just bought a condo. Yeah. In Austin, because it's much cheaper to buy in Austin than to rent in New York City, which is just crazy.
It is.
We bought a tiny little place in kind of the heart of Austin. It's where my fiance and I met in Austin.
But the one thing the Midwest has on and Nashville, I came from another boom town. And you made this point. The winter does it separates the wheat from the chaff, if you will.
Yes.
It's like there's just enough people who are going to go, actually, on second thought, no, I'm not going up there. Mm-hmm. Keeps it kind of nice. I like it that way.
That's why I lived in Los Angeles, and there's nothing to filter out.
No, God, no.
It just, nothing ever gets refreshed. It's like your laptop. It's just all those files stay there. You never recycle.
It's just like, nope, we're flying the freak flag, and everyone's welcome. And please never leave.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Matthew Broussard is at Acme. 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow night, although the 7 o'clock is already sold out. Get tickets. It is a pleasure to meet you, sir. Anytime you're in town, you got a spot. Come on by.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, right on. Thanks.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. At least one person in America is thrilled, literally thanking your lucky stars that the Baltimore Ravens were eliminated from the postseason last week. And that woman was on a flight from Baltimore to Phoenix. Check this out. I'm reading a Twitter thread. This guy named Andrew writes, a woman on my Southwest flight from Baltimore to Phoenix this morning had a mid-flight medical emergency. The doctor and nurse attending to her on board couldn't find a strong pulse. Her blood pressure was extremely low. She required oxygen to breathe. It was genuinely scary. A man in the aisle seat popped up and said, could it be her blood sugar? I have a diabetic testing kit. It was Ravens tight end Mark Andrews.
Good man.
Andrews instructed the medical professionals on using his test kit. Eventually, her heart rate stabilized. Paramedics met the flight as soon as we landed. Andrews deplaned quietly, no fanfare. As he's done his whole career, he stepped up in a huge moment when people needed him most. Watching complete strangers spring into action to help save someone's life is truly amazing, and the woman did make it okay, just fine. Tight end for the Ravens. Flying Southwest to Phoenix, gets up, saves the day. But that wouldn't have happened if the Ravens had beaten the Chiefs. And that woman might very well not be with us right now.
Butterfly
just think about it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you're a Ravens fan and you're still upset about the loss, now there's your silver lining.
Oh, I think any Ravens fan, if I know Baltimore, and I do just a little bit, that they'd sacrifice a life for a win.
I can think of 7 people whose last name is Gorman who are like, no, she was a worthy sacrifice. That would be
the Gormans. They're angels. Perfect.
No, the Baltimore Gormans don't play, brother. Let me tell you. I luckily avoided the Ravens curse. I was long gone from Maryland by the time they showed up, so I didn't have to buy into that one. But then again, of course, you're listening to a Titans fan, so I probably should have been a Ravens fan. Right. Jeez, long suffering. Speaking of football, hey, we still got Brian Flores for another year as defensive coordinator. He did not only did he not get a head coaching job, he did not receive a single head coaching interview invitation.
Really?
Yeah.
He must have really burned that bridge.
Yeah, that's suing the league thing. When you sue the whole league that employs you, you can only go so far. And apparently right now that so far is still just defensive coordinator. Although that's not he's a great defensive coordinator. And I think the Vikings are lucky to go to run it back with him calling the shots on the defense because, boy, they were greatly improved this year.
Yeah, I don't know where they're at as far as being able to. I'm not going to even talk about the draft. The draft is its own animal, but where they're able to add players and move pieces around. But yeah, you'd love to see a guy with the talent of Brian Flores have another year with the defense that he's able to maybe work in a few maybe malleable, maybe able to just kind of tinker with it, and make it a bit more than it even was this season.
That would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? So we are well into it looks like spring's upon us. That's what's going to happen. Weekend plans. Anybody got anything happening that you want to share with your friends and our listeners?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Brothers Alamac.
Oh, that's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night at First Ave.
First Ave, right? I've penciled that one in myself.
Yeah, we'll see if you come through or not.
Going to wear a tank top?
That's the thing. That might be the time to break it out. We just had Matthew Broussard in studio. He's a very funny guy. He's at Acme tonight and tomorrow night. I might go see him. I really enjoyed having him in.
I'll be there too, and I'm gonna.
Are you going to be there tonight?
I am.
Well, can you hook me up? If you're attending bar, can I get a free drink?
We'll see. If you make me some chili, I'll give you some drinks.
Oh, we talked about chili, didn't we?
Yeah, you keep bragging about your chili.
Wow. Okay. Well, I did once. I don't know if I'm keeping bragging about my chili. Zep, what's the weekend plan, bro?
Top secret.
There you go. With Val Kilmer, I love that movie.
I know it exactly. If I mentioned it on the air, I'd be fired.
Okay.
By the end of the day.
All right. Very good. Then let's keep that to yourself. Let's see. I've already done the most important thing all week, which is I watched American Nightmare, so I'm not going to watch it again. Tony, I can't tell you enough. You got 3 of 4 morning show attendees are suggesting strongly you watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'll seek that out.
Attaboy.
But, of course, you can't miss the Pro Bowl happening on Sunday for flag football.
Oh, hey, by the way, I meant to say, I was going to say this. I already saw the Pro Bowlers are all out there playing things. You can see clips. Derrick Henry, the running back, who's the size of an interior lineman. They're playing dodgeball, and he takes someone out. And my man, it would have broken every rib in my body if this ball had hit me on the side. If you want to see the scariest thing ever, just Google Derrick Henry playing dodgeball. Okay. It's truly the stuff of middle school nightmares.
Great.
Well, that sounds like fun. Now I'm interested in that. I unfortunately turned it on during the long snap competition.
Oh boy.
And just not even Jason Kelsey could save that thing. I was like, sorry, Pro Bowl.
I would watch Olympic dodgeball for hours. I mean, for real. Because when I watch team handball, the Olympic sport team handball, it looks like indoor soccer, but they're just throwing the ball. All I ever think is we should just get retired pitchers and quarterbacks and field a team that no European can throw a ball like a quarterback or a pitcher.
Oh, my God.
Oh, can you imagine, 59-year-old Jeff George out there still just rifling a handball past some Croatian goalie? Ah!
Just taking his head off.
John Elway still out there just Marino. Dan Marino still can. Oh, they would just be dominant in team handball. I got to get on the Olympic committee and make this happen. Let's look back.
I'm your history teacher from now on.
Good morning, class. Good morning, class. Class. Thank you.
I'm Steve.
Today in 1954, a guy named Clarence Francis, whose nickname was Bevo, which if my name was Clarence Francis, I'd probably go with Bevo as well. He scored in a college basketball game 113 points. He was not from the future. He was not 7 feet tall. He's just a guard who loved to shoot. There was no three-point line, of course, back then. He had 38 field goals and 37 free throws, 113 points. Did not go to the NBA. He took a job in a steel mill instead because, as he said, I like the cheers from the crowd, but I like financial security more.
Oh, wow.
Boy, that was a different time,
Wouldn't
wasn't
you
it?
just put all 5 guys on him and let someone else on the team beat you? I don't know.
They just didn't. I guess they thought that wouldn't be good sportsmanship. Somehow scoring 113 points was. Who knows?
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.